Okay, it should be recording right now, I think. Okay, so I'm really used to Teams and not Zoom. Does it say on your end that it's recording, guys?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, perfect. Now I'll show you my screen. Um, okay, you guys can see my screen? The Excel?
Yep.
Yep. Perfect. Okay, so Pratik, the file is just the link that I posted right before the Google Drive. Is that good? Can you find it? Pratik, you good? Okay, good. So I basically took this. It's based on one of the tutorials I did before, not this year's finals, not last year, but the other semester's final. Um, Usually it's a mix of these. So the big case that you're gonna have on your final is based on COSO. So whatever you have on materiality, that was for your midterm, you're not gonna have to do that again. Then there could be some questions about, let's say there was a process in a company, and then you have to identify the control weakness, or is there any adjustments to do. Then calculation, that this is a big chunk of your exam. So I would say to really, there's not that many practices, so go back in the videos that I did and just redo the calculations and then practice and make sure that you know on which side you're putting it on. And part 4, these are short answers. So a lot of people have been asking me if the exam is cumulative. So this part would be cumulative, right? So any questions that could be from the first day of class to the midterm, or things that you learned last class could be integrated into the short answer or like one sentence answer. Is there any questions on the exam or anything about the structure of it, maybe? Shruti, you want to say something? No questions? No? Okay. Well, then I'll just, I think what I'll do is a review of like what's important. I think this is what a lot of people were asking me. Oh, sorry, not this. The COSO framework. And that could be tricky on the exam if you kind of hesitate. Then you're kind of that loop of like, do I put it in this section or in that section? So it's maybe just guys tell me, have you started studying, or should I assume that you have like that you're gonna study 3-4 days and then right now you're just trying to study for the other finals? Like, where are you guys at? Like, you're studying for other finals? Okay, so that's okay. Yeah, that's fair. Probably have Acco for a 340 or other exams that require more exercise. Okay, so I'll try not to do too much theory, because okay, so looked it over a bit but didn't go too heavy. Okay, so I'll just try to tell you what to study right now. So in the maybe you know what, I'll take out a mock, like the question. I'll take out like mm, so this is a final review. And this is usually what you could expect in an exam. So this is the big part. The part one, the COSO. I would maybe put it for last. And then you guys do all the other questions and try to get it. Go through briefly. And then when you have time, you come back and you do this one. So it's a big case. And what do you have to do is explain the causal frameworks, these ones, right? The control environment, the risk assessment, any controls activities, information communication, and then monitoring. So you have to dissect the case and then go through each and tell me what's the strength and the weakness for the control environment, what's the strength weakness for RA, and for all of these. Okay. So I'm not gonna show this. So if someone could tell me in a couple of words, explain to me what's the control environment, what's important in that. Give me a couple of words. What are you looking for in this whole text? Yeah, so Tashin says tone at the top. And give me, yeah, so you're looking at management. Give me 2 words or 2 or 3. What are you looking in management? Ariel and Tashin, or anyone. What's the keywords that you're looking at? That if you're writing, I want to see these words. No, not for this example, just in general. Like what's important in control environment? Yeah, so ethics. So the reason why ethics are so important is because if the companies are not following the ethics on top, imagine what else they're not following. So that's why there's a tone at the top. What else? One thing. Integrity, yeah. So integrity is that if management tells you stuff and then you believe them, everything's right. But at one point they start lying to you, and then you're like, holy crap. Anything beforehand they told me, is it true, or do I have to recheck everything? And yeah, independence as well. That's one of the factors. And in class, we did discuss before that not only you have to be independent, but you have to appear independent, right? So you could do the best job as an auditor, but if you're auditing your company's, your brother's company, then you're not very independent. And so that's good. Good job, guys. So talk about the strength and talk about the weakness. So I would start with that. And then after that, what I would do is I would discuss, because there's a risk assessment and then there's the control activities, but I would discuss the control activities beforehand. Do you guys know why? I would try to find the control activities first. Because if you've watched my video before from the final, I would go straight up to control activities before the risk assessment. Or can someone tell me what's the difference between risk assessment and control activities? If you guys could try, that would be good, you know. Yeah, so Madeline said the controls depend on the risk involved. Yes, so that's good. So maybe Madeline, maybe expand on that. Could you tell me a little bit more why you think the controls depend on the risk involved? And why is like risk assessment so important, and like why control activities? It's 2 things are linked together. What's the relationship between both? You will put controls where risk is higher. Yeah, so that's very good. So the reason why I'm talking about control activities, that if you want to show it in the exam, if you're showing the control activities, then you're showing that there's a proper risk assessment from the company. And good management, controls could be very expensive and it could be timely. So good management will be able to identify the right place to put the control. But to do that, they need a good risk assessment. So risk across the organization, and then bang, you're gonna be putting the controls. So let's say I tell you there's a control, but it's not working. So how can you put that in your text? So let's say I tell you that the pipelines there's a procedure for them to be cleaned every week, but turns out that they have not been cleaned for the past 6 months because the company has not been they're trying to cut down on costs. So how can you put that information within all of these? It could be control environment, risk assessment, control activities, information communication, and monitoring. How does that information flow? So if you want me to write it, I'll write here. So like pipelines are supposed to be cleaned, but they have not been for last month. So how does this go into all of these? How would you categorize it, guys? Guys, don't be scared. I won't if you guys don't have it right, like it's just it's brave enough that you're trying it and you don't know anything right now because you haven't studied. Using control activities and risk assessment. Yeah, so here, maybe Isabel, could you tell me, is there a risk assessment in this? In this sentence, is there a risk assessment? I mean, there's a risk, but it's being violated. No rule, like a policy. So yeah, so that means that the control, there's supposed to be a control, but it's not being effective, but there's still a risk assessment. Yeah, exactly. So in that case, so that's why write the controls first in control activity. So you're right, like pipelines are supposed to be clean, blah, 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 blah. So yes, there's a risk assessment, but the weakness is that the control activity is not working. It's not there. Okay, so that's why if you look here, if we go down, oops, go here. Okay, so you look here, strict procedures in place to inspect pipes and any damage. There is the control activities there. Inspection, it's there, but it's not working. It's a weakness. But if you look at 2 and 3, there's still a risk assessment. So that's why I want to point you out, because a lot of people get confused with control activities and risk assessment. And also here, monitoring, how it relates to all this is that if there's good monitoring, it's because the management is actively, like following up on these strict procedures and doing them all week. So at that point, monitoring would be a weakness as well because they're not checking it up. Okay. So you could look at the videos for the finals, for the 2 finals. I have 2 exercises for both of these. So practice that. I would say to practice a lot because this counts for what, 20-30% of your final. Any questions on this? No? Yes? We good? No questions? Yep. I get an answer. No questions. Okay. Thank you, Christina. I thought you said no, you're not good. Okay. Yeah, so this is that. Okay, so I'll just go through this. So since the exam is cumulative, I'll go through all the like a little recap. I'll try to do it in less than 37 minutes. If you have any questions at any point, you could write in the chat, or if I don't see you, just ask a question. And yes, this exam is cumulative. Okay, so the audit risk model. So we've discussed a lot about this during your midterm. You did, and I just want you to understand like what's the big picture here. You don't need to know like things by heart. Just understand, that would be good enough. Okay, so audit risk model. So that's AR equals IR, CR, and then DR. Auditors accept some level of risk. So that's the AR, the audit risk. That you don't really talk about it for this class, right? The AR. So you'll see more about that during your 465 class, right? So AR, assume that number doesn't change, but it's just if you want to understand it, is how much can the auditor make a mistake on. So let's say we're comparing two companies that we're auditing. One's Apple, right? A lot of shareholders are very important, so maybe they will have a very low tolerance for AR. So you can't really make a mistake because there's a lot of dollars on hand, rather than let's say a private audit of maybe I don't know, IGA, maybe just for the banks, the financial statements. So the AR would be a bit higher. Okay, and if the risk is pervasive, you could assign more staff, heighten level of professional skepticism. So these are a couple of things I could do if the case is pervasive. So pervasive is like maybe let's say tone at the top is bad, or management has low integrity. So two factors of the risk model. Okay, so inherent risk. Yeah. So you have the definition, but like, can someone tell me in your own words what's inherent risk? Like, don't tell me this definition. Just tell me like, what do you think it is? Like in one sentence, or 3-4 words. The risk that exists without considering internal control. Yeah, very good. Tassin and Isabel. Yeah, without the internal controls, and then control risk is with the internal controls. And so as an auditor, what can you touch? What can you adjust? Guys, AR, IR, CR, DR. What can you do as an auditor if you see that it's a lot of risk of material misstatement? Yeah, so DR. Okay, so nice. So we can only touch the detection risk. So if we see there's a lot of risk of material misstatement, we lower our detection risk. And so risk of material misstatement, so what is that in this? Which components are, yeah, Tassin, exactly. So risk of material misstatements is IR times CR. And so if IR goes up, CR goes up, our detection will go down and our materiality will go down. Excellent. Okay, so I put a little recap of what's the risk here. You could read more upon it if you want, but just for the final, just understand the big picture. What's the formula and how does everything impact each component? Okay, so there you go. And then there's fraud risk, yada yada. Bang, you're good. Okay. So here it's a bit about the same thing, but more on the planning side. So before that, you do take a client, right? So you want to analyze the client. You want to do some tests to see if there's any risk, fraud. If you read more about it, I don't think that's too important. So Tashton says, I know for inherent risk, there's different factors. Do you have to memorize them for the final? I would say just maybe memorize I think what's the five, like complexity, blah, blah, blah. Just memorize them. But it was more for the midterm, or where the midterm they could have asked you um to talk about the inherent risk in the case, but in this final don't. But there could be a question about like what's the factors that will influence inherent risk, right? That's fair game. But just understand, just maybe learn the five, and then if they ask you to explain one of the concepts, well, you should be able to do it by common sense. Good, Tassin? Does that answer your question? Perfect. Okay, risk of material misstatement, client acceptance. Okay, so like let's say we don't look this. Before, let's say we're taking a new client on. What are the things that we could be checking on? Like you guys are partner, okay? You're partner at a big four, and then you just got this new engagement. What are the things that you might want to check? What are some things that you want to check before you're taking this Monday? The history with their previous auditor, yeah. Okay, so like Isabel, history with their previous auditor, what could be something that tells you like, oh, maybe we shouldn't take it? What are the red flags, as we could say? Yeah, so we could find fraud. Let's say the client is, let's say he's always yelling at, the auditor. He's like, no, no, I want it this way, blah, blah, blah. So any conflicts? Tustin says, see if the client's reputation is good. Yeah, so same principle here. If you have like the Hell's Angels that wants an audit, like maybe it would be like, you know what? Not sure I want to be associated with this bad organization. Yeah, so not correcting material misstatement. So this is a good one, because when you're doing an audit, let's say there's a material misstatement, you go tell the company, and you're like, yeah, you're not supposed to do this. Can you change it? And they're like, no, I don't want to do it. Blah, blah, blah. And they're like, oh, well, I want to change to another partner because he tells me that I could do it this way. So if you have a client like that, then that would be one of the reasons. Yeah, so unethical behavior, great. And how about staffing? How can you look at staffing for a new engagement? You want to make sure that you have the right personnel to do it. Right? So that's why there's like the big fours, and then there's small firms that take maybe regional companies, because they don't have that much staff. They can't audit like a $200 million company. So that's the difference between if you guys want to go to the big four, or you guys want to go to a smaller firms. Those are the differences. Okay, risk of material misstatements. That sums it up. Okay, so like this is all theory. I haven't really seen that in exam. Okay, you guys could take a look at this, measuring performance. Start up the planning, what you should do. No, I don't think that's really in the exam. But like, looks like staff engagement, right? And evaluate need for outside specialists. So those are the things that you have to do before. And like, let's say you're taking a specialist, let's say to assess the value of a diamond, and then turns out that the value of the diamond is not what the specialist says it is. You're the one supposed to be responsible for choosing the outside specialist. So that's on your hand. Okay, yada yada. Overall materiality, so you guys don't need this. This was more for the midterm. You'll still need this for Acco 465, so don't forget it too much. Okay, factors. Good, good. All right, chapter 5. We're getting there. We're getting there. Audit evidence. So this is the essence of Acco 360. You guys are auditors. You want to come to a conclusion, but to come to that conclusion, you need audit evidence, client acceptance, blah, blah. Okay, so audit procedures. So this is what you do to get evidence. So risk assessments procedures. Maybe if you guys could tell me, like, in general, what's the point of doing a risk assessment procedure? What does it mean, risk assessment procedure? I'm not sure. Good, good, good. Thanks for letting me know. Does someone want to try? Right, so that's how I would study Acco 360. I would be like looking at all these concepts and be like, do I actually know what this means, or like how is it useful? Okay, so Gwen says to determine which accounts are higher risk and seeing where the level of risk is higher. Yeah, so that's exactly it. Since as an auditor, you're not going to be able to look at all the pieces of evidence. And you'll see that when you're working during busy season, you have to cramp up. Like, I know people are working from morning till night, like 8-11 hours right before they're issuing your financial statements, because you're on a time crunch. You can't do anything. You can't test everything. So risk assessment procedures is a good way to be like, okay, AR, there's a problem. AP, there's a problem. Can someone tell me what's a risk assessment procedure that's cheap and we like to use? Usually we do use it. It has the same initials as accounts payable. Someone tell me. Yes, here says analytical procedure. That's exactly it. So Ariel, maybe could you tell me how would you use analytical procedures, or like how, like what are the ways that you could be using it? What's the methods? Or if anyone wants to join in. Come on, guys. This is like finding the difference between expected and actual result. Yeah. So Tassin, you're right. And there's different methods of doing it. So you could look at the history of the company. Let's say IGA, the grocery store. You have inventory each month of, like, let's say $10,000 worth of banana. But now you have like 20K worth inventory of banana, right? So that's a bit weird. Like, are they trying to overstate, understate? You could also do like between like IGA and Metro, right? So let's say two stores are one next to the other, and you have information. You've been auditing both, and you know that, holy crap, this guy has like 10K of bananas worth of inventory, but the other one has 20K of bananas. Like, like you look at comps in the market, you could talk with the client, and like he could tell you, oh, I think I ordered 10K of banana, but then he has 20K worth of banana inventory, and then that could be a red flag. So those are the ways that you could do analytical procedures, test of controls, and then substantive procedures. So again here, why are tests of controls so important? You want to test as an auditor, you want to test the controls. Why is that so important? Why is that so important, guys? You guys been testing controls since the beginning of these classes. Why are you guys doing it? You're looking at tell me, so can someone tell me? People, Samalan says people are doing their job right. Internal controls to see whether you can rely on the information produced by the client. Yeah, so that's good. So Gwen, maybe I ask you this. So why do you want to look at if the information is reliable to the client? Yeah, so Tashin says if they have good controls, then it's less likely for material misstatements to happen. But this all relates to one thing, guys. And I talked to you about it, right? These auditors working from morning to night during busy season. It's because of time, right? And to what time is money. No, you don't write money like that. Money, okay? And if the controls are good, well, you have less substantive procedures to do. If you have less substantive procedures, then you're saving money. The partner is happy. So this all flows together. The reason why you're doing risk assessment procedures is like, okay, which account is risky? And then let's say accounts receivable, it's risky. Oh, well, I'm gonna go look at the controls, test the controls. The accounts receivable controls, are they working? Are they not working? Let's say it doesn't work, then holy shit, I'm gonna have to use all substantive procedures for that account. Yeah, okay, so let's see, Gwen. If internal controls do not work, the document provided to you by client may not reflect the actual situation of the company. As such, you would, yeah, exactly. So you have to do more testing, and we don't want to do testing because we're on a crunch. That's why. Let me ask you guys this last question. Can I just do test of controls on an account? Let's say controls are perfect, don't need to do any work. They're all collaborating with the information. So Magdalene says no. So why can I not just do test of controls? Because then I'll be saving a lot of work. Yeah, so calculation can be wrong, and no, that's why we would always use substantive procedures. Yeah, human error, or like, let's say the design is working effectively, but let's say it's a bunch of interns that are doing it. So you would always do substantive procedures, but maybe your substantive procedures will be just lower. You don't have to do that much work. Okay, so that's good. You could read this if you want more. Okay, audit program. I did teach this, but not in the final. The concept of it, not really. Appropriate, relevant. Okay, so this is good. Reliability. Um, so what's the most reliable form of information? Tell me, guys. What's the most? Which one's the most reliable? So there's external confirmation. Yeah, that's very good. But there's one even better. It's the most reliable. Inspection. Exactly. But who does the inspection, Isabel? Info that is based on a few estimates as possible. Yeah, cash. Yeah, there you go. Auditor, internal auditor, others. There. Now we're getting somewhere. So that's the most reliable when you're doing the information. You're finding the information. But problem with that is, what's the problem with that, guys? Why can we not always get our information? Because of time and money, right? We don't have time to do it. So that's why maybe if we don't have time, maybe an external confirmation would be something that you would use. Not as reliable, but still reliable enough for the audit. Maybe above materiality. Okay, so independence of source, good qualification of source, consistency. Okay, that's good. Yeah. Okay, so this I would highlight, guys. Inspection, observation, external confirmation, analytical procedures. When they're asking you guys to be like, okay, there's a problem, there's a control weakness, identify it, or like, what would you do as an auditor? I want you to use these words. Okay, recalculation and verify the math. These are the words. Don't say like doing the math. Use technical words. Verifying, reperformance. Watch what we're doing here. So but I did put not matching. Okay. This is for the definition, but I would say reperformance of yada yada, and then here would be recalculation of yada yada. Inquiry, so that's when you're talking with the client. So not send an email to the client, but inquire the client about XXX. So this I would memorize, okay? Tashin, this is what I would memorize. Unequal procedures. So that's if you want to get more understanding, that's the definition. Okay. So these are the types of analytical procedures you could do, industry, similar period, other. Okay, and then what's the difference between internal and external documentation? So let's say you do get external documentation. What do you want to make sure of it? What's something that, even if you think it's a reliable source, but the fact that because of this external documentation is not good. If the party exists, yeah. So I think what you mean would be like, how reliable is the source? So let's say it's Faskin, the law firm, well, you're pretty comfortable that it's going to be legit. But if it's like I don't know, let's say Patel Associates, right? You're like, who's this law firm? You know. So that would be one thing. But what else? What else, guys? What else? So I'll give you 5 seconds. If they're related to your client, yeah, so that there could be a question of independence. That's good. Yeah, so like let's say you're auditing another law firm, and then that's no, you're identifying a law firm, whatever, and that's the subsidiary, but that would be questionable. But there's one thing. Okay, I'll say it. So imagine you get the external confirmation, but it was someone from the person you're auditing, the client, you're getting that document from. What you'd rather have is a direct answer with, let's say, Faskin. You'll send them a message and be like, can you confirm if there's any outstanding liability? And then they'll send to you. Faskin will tell you, no, this client does not have any outstanding liabilities, rather than your client sending you that email from Faskin's. Does that make sense? Yes, okay, great. Okay, so vouching tracing, by now, if you don't know what this is, I'm kind of worried, but I'm sure most of you guys know what it is. Okay, so audit procedures, and how you would use this is, like, let's say you have a question like this in the exam, right? So identify control weaknesses in the following situation, right? So that's where I would want you to see, well, I want to see like reperformance, calculation, blah, blah, blah. Right, so ABC is a company that sells medical equipment. Your internal auditor engaged to assess controls. Right, the companies are primarily doctors. Order. Then you have to target, like, look, Jeremy and Rebecca credit. Check the credit. So that's what? That's revenue. So they're asking you what's the control weakness of the revenue of it. Okay, so I go through this in I think my first final tutorial. So try to do it before. look at the grid here like this. And if you could integrate that in your answer. And the problem is because it's not really like it's different case by case. So you really have to understand the context of it. Okay, so that's for expenses, audit procedures, for revenue, right? So occurrence, completeness, so right? Exam is cumulative. This is how all the cumulative stuff comes back this way in these audit procedures, if you want to know how to study it. Okay, so like Tashin says, are inspections, reperformance, observation considered as audit procedures, or is it called by a different term, or is it just a bit? So your audit procedures is just, it's kind of a combination, right? So you start by saying, okay, your assertion is occurrence, and what's your audit procedure to test occurrence? Because occurrence is your assertions, right? So assertions plus audit procedure, and that makes how you find the evidence. So in your exam, I would test occurrence by selecting a sample of expense transaction and doing blah, 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 and then blah, blah, blah. But that's how you would start your audit evidence. Does that help, Tashin? Okay, so getting the audit evidence is considered as like, yeah, so you're doing the inspection to get the audit evidence, right? So I'm looking at I'm doing inspection, I'm looking at a document to get the audit evidence that the two numbers on my ledger and on the invoices are the same. So the audit evidence is good. Does that make sense? Good, sounds good, perfect. Okay. So here I put some more. So chapter 4, audit responsibility of objective, right? Management responsibilities. And then there's a corporate governance. So in one sentence, guys, tell me what is management responsible of? In one sentence. Like what's their main role in audit? Like in one sentence, what's a big picture here? Or is this question too deep for you? Helping the auditor with info they need. I would debate. That's on the perspective of the auditor, like how they bring value to the auditor. But as for why is there a management there? Why are these people getting paid the money in terms of audit? So if we go back here, control environment, risk assessment, control activities. Exactly. Their job is implementing controls and doing the risk assessment. And so if there's a good management, what he'll do is that he will have good control activities, good controls, because he'll have a good risk assessment. That's how I'm trying to get to you guys, how this always, like how this exam is cumulative, is because you're taking information from before, now you're applying it. So if that's their job, what's corporate governance? What's the board? What's their responsibility in one sentence? What's their job? Why they're making a lot of money too? In one sentence, guys. One sentence. You got it. Let's go. Can someone try to make sure everything runs smoothly in the? There you go, Madden. Make sure that everything runs smoothly in the company, and they're checking management, right? They're the boss of management, and so if management are not doing their job, then the board of directors are liable. If, let's say, CEO does something bad, then board does not fire him, then he does something bad again, or he doesn't have effective controls, then that's the board's problem. Yeah, and there's a bunch of companies I could tell you right now, like Gidon, that make shirts, right? They're having a problem with their board and management. Right, so they fired the CEO recently. Now they want to, not too sure who they want to keep, and like on the board, their votes. So you vote for a CEO. Sometimes the board will fight each other to have a certain CEO to be applied, right? So that's how it works in real life. Okay. So these things here. Let's get a chapter here. Chapter 4. Let's cover governance. Okay, so error versus fraud. So what's the difference between an error versus fraud in one word? Intention. Great, great, great. So if you make an error, there's not really intention. If there's fraud, is there intention? And there's two things. There's misappropriation of asset, so you're stealing, and fraudulent financial reporting. So which one's more material? Usually, between both. Which one's more material? Yeah, great, great. Tree and Gwen. The reason is because fraudulent financial reporting doesn't happen often, but if it does happen, it'll be like in 2008 or in 2000. It'll be millions of dollars. Okay, so external auditor, got it. Not too important. These are just concept, maybe just learn it, but haven't seen them. Assertions here, I put them again. Well, actually, no, this is not my document. This is my friend's document when I was studying with her, and then I just added some stuff and reviewed. But yeah, so classification, the rights and obligation and presentation. Okay, again here, if you're not too sure about the assertions, and this is for payroll. How you could test controls as an auditor, the test of details. So that's the assertions, and the other checks, and outsource of payroll. Okay, so guys, what's the difference between a type 1 report and a type 2 report? What's the difference between type 1 and type 2 report? Type 1 report, type 2 report. Someone wants to try? Assume that you have this on your exam and you don't know what on earth this is. Try to give me an answer. Type 2 test effective of control. Yes. Pragmatic. That's exactly the answer. So type 1 is a system designed effectively, and type 2 is it designed effectively, and is it working effectively? Yeah. Okay, that's good. So that's the staff level. When you guys are going to enter, you're going to be a staff accountant 1, then there's staff accountant 2, and then there's a senior. Okay. Organization, I put here a little description of each. There could be a question. I remember like one of my examples was like worth 2 out of 50 or 4 out of 50. I think maybe 2 out of 50. Like who was on CPAB, like who audits the auditors. But on another exam, it was like on like PCAOB, the answer, but I'm not sure. What was the question? And this all goes to like purpose of audits and the things that you learned the first classes. So if you want to take a look at it, you could. And then here, assurance, subject matter, so just theory thing. But by now, all you guys should be really good with this. So I talked a lot, but let's go back to the essentials. What's important? COSO. Okay. COSO, you got to know. Control weakness, you got to know. And how do you do that? Is with practicing your audit procedures, calculation, a lot of points. So make sure that you know what's a bank rec. And if you don't practice again, I have a bunch of videos on that, actually maybe 2. So take a look at it. You should get at least 75% on bank recs minimum. That's what I expect from all you guys. MUS, yeah. So even if you come here at Big Four, you're going to be doing some MUS. Better know what it is. And sampling error, so that's based on the table, the arrow. And then short answers, anything from the beginning of the class should be there. That's pretty much for the review for today. Is there any questions? What chapter is part 2? So that's hard to say because it's like on audit procedure, because then there's inspection. Let me see where I did put. I told you guys. Oops. Is it this one? Yeah, it's this. Yeah, so that would be chapter 5, audit evidence. Yeah, there we go. Yep. So you're trying to identify the control weakness by using the audit evidence. What should I focus on memorizing by heart, and which one should I really try and understand? And how should I allocate my time between all the chapters? So I actually asked the same question to my teacher when I did the exam, in an email, and he told me, Danny, for accounting, you should never memorize anything by heart, right? But like the way I showed you the tutorial today, like I don't learn anything by heart. I just look at the concept and I try to understand it. Except for maybe if you want to be sure what you want to know more by heart is like, let's say here we go to like inspection, observation, external confirmation. Maybe these are the things that you want to know, the key terms that you put in a sentence. And then if we go at the COSO framework, well, you want to know what's controlling, right? Like what's important inside integrity, VOD, competence, right? So when I would be studying, that's how I would study. Just what are the key concept, and like what does control activity means? Like, so control over risk assessment, control over technology on a timely basis. Because like you we go on. So yeah. Control routine, and those audit procedures are going to be used for part 2, right? So wait, so you mean part 2? I would say that these concepts are used for part 2 because you're not going to talk about really control environment and identify the control weakness unless like it tells you in the case, like let's say management is not good at its job. But you don't need to learn that. You'll see it. So I'd say that they're pretty different, both of them. I wouldn't put any causal framework in this. It's more about audit evidence. That makes sense. Okay, good. So yeah, all my videos are there, for free as well. Yeah, take advantage of it. The videos. You have one more week. Just listen to me talk, and then you'll get bored of my voice. That's how good you know you'll be prepared. Any other questions?